Yeah. What's good, everybody? It's your boy Sean P, the Bluff God. Hey, that was a little dramatic. I know. But today we are here. We're about to react to another video from Artur, the Library of Ohara. We did a video last week of him. It was this big theory that he has, and last week we did episode 1, but this week we'll be doing today we'll be doing episode 2, and it is titled. Make sure it's how Skypiea Foreshadows how One Piece will end. One Piece: The True History. That's the name of the video by Artur, the Library of Ohara. Popular YouTuber, makes great content. The link is in the description, so make sure you go to the original video, give his video a like, subscribe to him, go watch some of his other videos. He makes good content, make good theories. He's like a staple in the One Piece YouTube community. So that's what we will be doing. But before I get into that, make sure you give this stream a big old like, right? And what else? And make sure you subscribe. If you haven't already subscribed, I'm doing a giveaway after we hit 50 subscribers. After I hit that 50 subscriber milestone, I will be doing the giveaway. And make sure you follow me on Instagram, on Twitter, @BlumpGod. If you don't know how to spell that, the links, it'll be in the description. I don't think I got the links in there, but the name BlumpGod, that's the name of the channel. If you don't know how to spell, it's the name of the channel, baby. So there you go. And follow the One Piece Discord and the One Piece Facebook group if you're on Facebook. The links will be in the description to those. So make sure you join those groups so we can continue the discussions. That's what we got to do. This is a community. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build my own One Piece community. And we have a group already. There's people in it. We have Discord. So make sure you join. Make sure you join those and help those grow. Be a part of these communities. I know I like talking about One Piece, and if you watch this, I hope that you like talking about One Piece. So, but yeah, that's not what we're here for. Let's get into the video. It's about a good 27-minute video. I'm gonna stop it and go. I'm gonna stop it like normal. I don't want to say I'm going to try not to, because that's the point of this. Give my input on, give my commentary on, One Piece theories. That's what I like to do. So let's do this.
Is one of the most fascinating arcs in all of One Piece. However, some would dare argue that for as wondrous as it may be, it feels detached and unrelated to the rest of the grander story. In fact, some would even dare say that you should skip the arc altogether.
Hey, don't go skipping arcs. Like if you a One Piece fan, don't go skipping arcs. Read it read it in the manga. Read the manga, if anything. If you don't want, because I understand that sometimes the anime, there's certain arcs that do drag, Dressrosa. Looking at you, Dressrosa. Yeah, I know a lot of people like Dressrosa, but I heavily got a problem with Dressrosa. It was probably one of my least favorite arcs to actually watch. Besides a few moments like Gear 3 and everything. Or not Gear 3, Gear 4. Besides Gear 4 and the few little moments in there, watching it was a drag. But I still watched it though. I still watched it. I just had to let the episodes build and then watch them at once. But watching it weekly, bro, that was damn near torture. I won't even lie to you. That was torture to me. I know a lot of people like Dressrosa, but that's one of those arcs that I wish I probably would have just read instead. But I actually started reading the manga after, like, I started reading the manga as Zoe art, because I actually caught up with One Piece around Dressrosa, because I was watching it. Like when I started watching it, I think it was the series was on in Punk Hazard. I think when I started watching I thought my mic was mute. I thought my mic was mute that whole time. My bad. But when I started watching it, I think the series was in Punk Hazard, and I caught up at the beginning of Dressrosa, and watching it weekly was tough. It was tough, but I wish I would have read it. I didn't start reading the manga till after the Dressrosa art, because again, like I said, Dressrosa, the pacing was, I didn't like the pacing, so I was like, you know what, I hope the pacing isn't like this from now on, so I'm gonna just have to read the manga, and I did. But I think for me, I think Zoe, the pacing of Zoe was great. It was a short arc, and then Whole Cake Island, a lot of people didn't like the pacing, and I could say Whole Cake, the pacing wasn't great, but I would say Whole Cake was way better than Dressrosa as far as pacing. You know, it wasn't nowhere near as long as Dressrosa. And but yeah, I liked Whole Cake Island, and I'm liking Wano. I know Wano is kind of long, but it's giving us a lot, so I'm not complaining. Especially in the anime. The anime is giving us a lot that the manga is kind of glossing over. Which I think that's what an anime should do. A manga should give you certain things, and then I think the anime should be able to fill some of those voids. That's when a lot of people do not like filler, but filler is not a bad thing. Filler is good. Good filler. Dressrosa didn't have good. Dressrosa had bad filler, in my opinion. Dressrosa had bad filler, but I think like Wano has great filler. You know, Wano, like, I remember in the manga when Zoro got arrested and he was doing seppuku or whatever, but we never actually seen how Zoro got to that point. But and the anime actually kind of, you know, filled us in on that. It wasn't canon, but you know, it gave us something that the manga didn't. And I think it was. I think a lot of the filler in Wano is actually canon, because I think that's kind of what Oda is going for. Oda wants he doesn't want to, because it's such a long arc, he doesn't want to have to explain every single thing. So he kind of glossed over some things, some of the fights that people might, oh, why don't we get all these fights? It's like, Oda doesn't want to give you the whole thing. He wants the anime to really flesh. He want to leave it to the anime to flesh it out and fill things in, you know. So I think it's one of those things where Oda actually wants the anime to fill in some of the stuff that he kind of skipped. So yes, it's filler, but like I said, it's good filler. But you know, that's kind of a tangent I went on. But yeah, let's get back to the video.
But I would argue that not only is the Skypiea arc vitally important to the story in many ways, but that the story of the people of the sky reflects the story of the world below. In a lot of ways, it completely parallels and foreshadows the entire series from start to end. And most importantly of all, it foreshadows exactly how One Piece will end. The story of Skypiea is a microcosm of the story of the world of One Piece, because despite being isolated from everyone else, its inhabitants are no different than humans, and so similar events and history repeated over both worlds. Thus, if we take a look at the history of Skypiea, we'll be able to understand the history of the world of One Piece and what actually happened before, during, and after the Void Century. The parallels between this civilization and the rest of the world will help us understand exactly not just that, but also what is going to be the final scene and resolution of the series once the One Piece treasure is discovered. However, I'd like to start things off by taking a look not at the history of the sky, but starting off with the history of the world below, to then later understand the parallels that link the two. In the previous episode, we established our main premise for this thesis about what Luffy's true dream is, that being to throw the biggest party in the world. However, now that we have established that foundation, it is time to go back in time and go through all the events of the history of the world of One Piece from the very start. And to achieve that, we'll have to start at the very, very beginning of everything. Before the main story, before the Void Century, before all the events that unfolded in this world, at the beginning of everything.
The beginning of everything. That's a... Okay, the beginning of everything. Hold on. Like you said, this video is the second episode. This is what we're reacting to now. We reacted to episode 1 last week in an 8-part video series about all the secrets in the world of One Piece. It is recommended to watch all 8 videos in order for maximum enjoyment, but it isn't required to enjoy the video, so you can still watch ahead if you want. All episodes will be linked in order in the description. So again, like, I think he drops episode 4 tomorrow. We're on episode 2. I think he drops episode 4 tomorrow. So there's still episode 3 that I have not watched yet. So again, go to his channel. Click the link here. Give this video a like. Make sure you do that. And then if you want to go ahead before me, go watch the 3rd episode, and tomorrow you can watch the 4th episode, or anytime after tomorrow. But let's go. Everything in this video is my speculation alone. The birth of the world. The world.
At first, there was nothing, and then there was light, a big bang which gave birth to the known universe. And somewhere in the corner of some galaxy, a world was born. This world, much like our own, passed through one of many geological eras, shifting and evolving through millions and even billions of years, eventually leading to its biggest change, the birth of life. At first, species were aquatic, but eventually moved on to land. These species grew and evolved, leading to the era of the dinosaurs. At some point, the world became covered mostly in water, with thousands of islands scattered all over. At this stage, the world resembled a lot more how it currently looks. However, I would dare state that its 2 most distinct features, the supercontinent Red Line and the ocean Grand Line, at that time did not yet exist. But we'll tackle that subject later. Either way, none of this really matters much at the present, because regardless of the geological eras and regardless of the dinosaurs and other life forms, the true protagonists of this story would be mankind.
The birth of mankind. And we're not
Evolved
talking
from
wrestling.
the same common ancestors as today's apes, a new race made its way into the world. Humans. Homo sapiens. And yet what truly sets this world apart from ours was that not only did humans appear, but many other types of hominids did as well. Races that aren't quite identical to humans, but possess very similar body shapes, opposite thumbs, bipedal builds, and most importantly, the same level of intelligence. Unlike our world, its people are not just differentiated by their gender, very similar body shapes, opposite thumbs, bipedal builds, and most...
Alright, so we got primates, and that goes into... there's one thing with the mere folks and fish folk. I guess they can be considered primates. Maybe a little more mixed with fish, though, So fish and primates, they're like a evolution of both fish and primates. Minks are kind of like, primates and other mammals, I guess I would say. Other mammals that aren't primates. And then we got the snake neck group. I think that snake neck is from the Big Mom's crew, like Big Mom's family, like one of Big Mom's children. And we got the Three-Eyed Tribe, which I did kind of talk to in the last stream. Make sure you go check out the last stream I did. Check out that last stream I did on Sunday, because I talk a lot about, or I didn't talk, I was going over a theory about the One Piece. And it's a good video. It's a good stream, so check that out. It like the theory I reacted to is a very good theory. You know, and I wonder. I'm kind of wondering if that theory from that I read on Sunday is somehow going to correlate to. It's going to correlate to what I'm trying to say. What am I trying to say? To his theory, or if his theory is going to correlate to that theory. Then we got the the humans, normal humans, and the Kuja, which are the I want to say what's her name? The Snake Princess, Boa Hancock, like her people, the Kuja. I guess they're their own race. I always just thought they were strong humans, like kind of like Amazonians, but still human though. But I mean, maybe not. I don't know. And then going over, we got the Long Arm tribe and the Long Leg tribe. And then next over, a little further over, we got the Skypean races, the Shandians, the Skypeans, and the Belkins or the Birkins, which I'm wondering where Tenguyama Hitetsu and King falls in that, because Tenguyama Hitetsu, he had I'm assuming those wings that he have are his wings and they're not just like some superficial wings. Maybe they're not. Maybe you just put those wings there. I don't know. But I'm kind of thinking he might even be closer to what King is, because he got some pretty big wings. You know what I'm saying? Like his wings are like, we see like the other Skypeans, they got a lot smaller. They got smaller wings, right? And then over, we got giants. And then next we got the dwarves. And I don't see him putting like Or's race, because I like Or's and Or's Jr., unless they're artificial giants. You know what I'm saying? Because we know the numbers are artificial giants. They came from Punk Hazard. I don't think Or's is an artificial giant, because he was around for a long time, and like the numbers, they came from Punk Hazard. They came from the lab of Punk Hazard. Or's was a monster from like long ago, an ancient monster. So I think his race of people, like he might be of like the Oni race or something, or what like Kaido is. And then you got Kaido. Kaido is also an Oni, so I think they could probably be put in the giants category as well, but maybe a different species of giants, like not like the giant here is kind of like a human giant. He's just a human but big. But then you got Ors. He's a giant, but he's more ogre-ish. He's like an ogre. But yeah.
Most importantly, the same level of intelligence. Unlike our world, its people are not just differentiated by their gender and their skin color, but also by their fins, their fur, their wings, or their sizes. Alongside humans, many more creatures began to populate the world. And this is not counting other types of races and subspecies, or the difference between the individuals within each race, such as the countless classifications for fishfolk, merfolk, or minks. The sheer variety the world offered in its inhabitants provided a beautiful amount of diversity, with so many different creatures, with different abilities, strengths, and attributes. Cultures began to form around the world, and through the invention of ships, exploration became available, leading to the colonization of more and more territories. Kingdoms arose and civilizations developed. We know that kingdoms like that of Alabasta have existed for well over 4,000 years, becoming major political powers ever since ancient times. All these events led to all these different species and cultures to interact together. One would imagine that with such diversity, such varied skill sets, yet so much in common, all of these races would be able to put their unique traits to good use and build a prosperous future together. But sadly, the truth of history is far darker than that. Hidden beneath these lofty ideals lied a violent and blood-stained history.
Humanity's blood-stained history.
People are so much more than just wild beasts. They are intelligent, they value emotion, heart, and have morals and values. They value peace and joy. Yet other...
Hold on. This man did not just do that. This man did not just do that.
and have morals and
Just pretend this is One Piece. You got the Uchiha and the Senju. But who's who though? You know, like how do you relate that to One Piece? You know, are we talking like the fishmen and the minks? Like how we differentiating them? How we differentiating?
values. They value peace and joy. Yet at their core, they are also deeply driven by their instincts, by their weaknesses. In a survivalist mentality, what is right to work is what is safer, and so we become afraid of the different. Ideally, it is through courage that man thrusts himself into the different and learns to understand it to better make use of it. But history has shown us that not everybody has that courage, and many were frightened by the different. In spite of all that these races share together, in spite of sharing the same red blood, their differences scared them. Their differences frightened them, and this fear led to seeing each other as threats, shifting the blame onto others and treating them like creatures who are inferior. This feeling is not one that belonged to one singular race either, but there was one critical detail that completely changed how these events developed. These races all differed in strength. Humans were strong, but the likes of fishmen, dwarves, or giants were stronger by biological nature. Yet for as powerful as they were, there was one attribute that they all lacked.
Numbers.
Numbers. And that is what humans likely had above all else. No matter how weak they might have been, humans were just more numerous. Their strength in numbers allowed them to become the majority, making them the normal, and everything else that which was inferior. Any hope for equality was shattered, turning into seeds of discrimination, prejudice, and racism. Racism is a very major theme in One Piece. It may not seem like it at first glance, but I'd go as far as to argue that it's a driving force for the core theme of the entire series. While some might think that this is just a way to offer political commentary in our world, which, by all means, it is also fundamentally rooted across the entire world of One Piece. Because the truth is, racism has plagued the history of the world of One Piece, much like it has plagued that of our own. We have seen firsthand the effects that racism has had on the fishfolk and the merfolk, with humans treating them as nothing more than fishes, something that has been explored in great lengths during the Sabaody and Fishman Island arcs. But we've also seen this in so many other cases. For example, according to Gancho, the chief of the Tontata, even prior to the Void Century, dwarves had been hunted by humans for a very long time. They were seen as nothing more than an amusing creature, an animal to be caught as a collector's item, to be hunted like bugs. They were eventually approached by the human king of Dressrosa, King Don Quixote, to be provided shelter, but even he betrayed them and enslaved them, paving the way for what would become known as the Great Tontata era of slavery, a brutal, ruthless, and merciless period of time, which remaining records describe as nothing short of a living hell. Even in current cases,
I low-key forgot that. I forgot that the doors went to the King Don Quixote for about their oppression, and then end up getting basically getting oppressed by him as well. I forgot about that.
in the story, such as with someone like Pudding, we've seen the degree of discrimination that they can go through. Despite how varied Tatulan can be, Pudding's third eye was rare enough that she was bullied and discriminated against for it. Even her own mother, for as much as she wants to pretend to live in her delusional world of equality, she too claimed to be creeped out by her eye, viewing her like a weird monster. It would be years until Pudding would meet someone who did consider her beautiful for being different. And even in isolated cases like the Wano country, we've seen how Kawamatsu and his mother were discriminated against for being different from the rest of humans there, ultimately leading to his mother's death, asking her son to lie about his race to protect his own life. There are countless and countless other accounts of discrimination across the series, yet there is one detail that you might not have thought about that goes to show just how persecuted the races of the world really are.
But I also think there's even racism, like in One Piece, there's also racism, or like, it's not just racism either, it's classism, because we got the celestial dragons, the who are, they're like the top of the top as far as social class, and then you have the normal people, and then they're not just enslaving fishmen and giants and all that. They also enslave normal people as well. So like they treat like the celestials treat everybody like crap that isn't celestial. They look at everybody beneath them. So it's like racism, and then there's classism. That's another another big topic that One Piece is about. I don't know if he's going to actually talk about that in here, but I kind of wanted to mention that because I think I don't know if he's actually going to talk about that. So I'm gonna talk about it.
Let's play a game. Try to imagine a random island in the series and try.
And I'm sorry for interrupting that again, but even below, I kind of want to expand. I'm gonna kind of rewind it a little bit. I kind of want to expand on the whole classism idea, because we also see people who aren't celestial dragons but still in a royal position treat people lesser. You got like what's Sabo's brother, Stali or whatever. Sabo's parents and his brother, like they, their whole thing is to get, basically become kings or become royalty. Like they're like Sabo's parents wanted to mold him. They wanted to groom Sabo into marrying somebody, of like marrying somebody who could elevate their status, right? But Sabo didn't want that. Sabo kind of he was friends with Ace, he was friends with Luffy, and he wanted to be with them. Like he wanted to hang with them and be friends with them, be brothers with them. But it's kind of like they didn't like that, and inherently they eventually disowned Sabo. Like first they locked him up, but then I think eventually they kind of they adopted a new son who was Stali. Or correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm saying his name wrong, but they adopted Stali, and because they see that they wasn't gonna be able to mold Sabo into what they wanted, so they adopted Stali, and they eventually disowned Sabo, and they just treated him inferior, just like they would treat other people they might have looked at as inferior. And we kind of see, like, if you look at Sabo's backstory, when like Sabo, Ace, and Luffy's backstory, you kind of see the example of classism. That I think that was a great backstory to kind of see the classism, discrimination. Then you got Doflamingo, who, but to be fair, Doflamingo was a celestial dragon, but even after him and his family got kicked out, he still looked at everybody below him as lesser than, aside from like his family, like the Don Quixote's family, as far as the pirates, not like his actual dad and brother and mom, but the pirates, the pirate group. And then but he respects Kaido because Kaido is strong. He kind of fears Kaido, so he ain't gonna disrespect Kaido. But yeah, so I think Doflamingo also respects strength. I don't think it's necessarily. I think he does have that discrimination against people in a lesser social class, but I do feel as though Doflamingo is one who respects strength to a degree. Him being strong himself, and him no longer being of royalty, he kind of has to mingle with people who socially is lesser than him, but strength wise is his equal or greater. So, but there's that though.
Of discrimination across the series. Yet there is one detail that you might not have thought about that goes to show just how persecuted the races of the world really are. Let's play a game. Try to imagine a random island in the series and try to picture the people living there. What do you see? Chances are, if you haven't chosen one of the few unique exceptions,
I'm thinking of the Gold Kingdom, but that's because I was just talking about the Gold Kingdom. So it's probably going to be perfect for this, I'm thinking.
Exceptions, the island you visualized is filled with humans. Only humans. Aside from Totland and some other exceptions, such as pirate crews, we really haven't seen any of the world's many races ever coexisting much with humans. All of those islands are filled with so many humans, sure, but only humans, because after all, if that racism is so deeply rooted, how could all these races live alongside humans? Take another example, the Marines. Think about all the Marines we've seen across the series. They're all humans. Now, admittedly, there is an exception because giants are also in the Marines, but as Law explained, that is simply a special exception given their unbelievable military power. But aside,
I would also say giants do the giants are kind of like humanish though. They're like very humanoid. So I think that's why the Marines would, garner that exception, because the giants are humanoidish. They're just big, but otherwise, other than being giants, they look human. They look like big humans. I mean, in a sense, they are big humans.
this rare exception, has there ever been any other Marine who wasn't human? Any fishmen, skyfolk, even long arms or long legs? No.
Good point, though.
They're
Never
all
noticed that.
humans. The world government, the world nobles, the Marines, and their many kingdoms are all filled with just that. Humans. So if humans were the prevailing species, where could all the other races go? If humans could hunt them down, where could they escape to? The answer is to places where humans could not reach them. The one advantage some of these races had was that they had specific traits or circumstances which allowed them to access places that humans could not reach. For example, the fishfolk and merfolk could breathe underwater, so they went to live on the seafloor, because no human could ever reach them there. Fishman Island was said to have originally been a popular gathering spot of seafolk because it was where the roots of the sun tree Eve reached, making it the only place in the seafloor where light arrives. They might have fish-like attributes, but in the end, seafolk are no different from humans. They love the sun. The sun brings them joy. Of course, this sunlight of the ocean could never compare to the light of the real sun, but that was nothing more than a dream for them. Similar is the story of the minks. Persecuted by humans, they could do nothing more than go live on the back of the colossal elephant Zunisha to survive and stay away from humans, allowing them to vanish on this unreachable island, isolating themselves for centuries. And the same can be said for a lot of other races. The giants stayed at Elbaf and became a culture of warriors because it was the only way to protect themselves. The Kujas sought refuge at Amazon Lily, a natural fortress made to defend from enemies. Much like the giants, the Kuja learned to be warriors and prioritize strength above all else in their culture, replacing outdated ideals of beauty being defined by one's attractiveness to beauty being defined by one's strength. And they also created the law of outlawing any man from...
Okay, about the Kuja though, I always kind of looked at them as human. I get they're their own people, but I always kind of looked at them as human, just maybe a more, maybe a slightly evolved species of human. And this is kind of off. It's slight tangent. If and somebody answer this if maybe it was explained, but I don't really remember. Because we know that the Kujo, they we're looking here and it says for hundreds of years our absolute law has been to forbid men from entering. So they're very closed off from men, but it's how are the new Kuja warriors? How are they born? You know what I'm saying? Who's birthing these women? Who's birth? And maybe they might actually explain why they're not human. I don't know if they explained it. It's again, somebody let me know if they explained it and where it is. But why? How do they reproduce without men? That's what I'm curious.
Reaching the island because most of their enemies happen to be men, and a force of women alone would likely not be able to stand against them. Whether it's the minks being trained to be like warriors since birth, Or the tribal warrior culture of the Shandians. All of these species had to fight to even stay alive, and so their cultures became like those of warriors. While others, like the dwarves, were not as lucky, becoming enslaved by humans, though the few that could escape became fierce warriors and hid in the ground away from the eyes of humans. All of these show us that racism was very much present across this world's history, and that it nearly drove so many of these races to extinction, forcing them to seek refuge in parts of the world where they would not be pursued. This element might not seem as important now, but trust me, keep it in mind, because as we move forward, this history of racism will become one of the fundamental catalysts for the existence of the One Piece. However, we're forgetting one race, aren't we? The Skyfolk. What place could they go where they could ensure that humans would never pursue them there? You might think at first the Sky Island, sure, but what if they went beyond? To the farthest reach, the final frontier.
The moon.
The moon.
El Muno.
There is a bit of a misconception in our community that the Skyfolk were born on the moon. After all, we know they came down from the moon, making some think that the species originated there. But that's not how evolution works. Skyfolk are obviously hominids. They possess the same traits as humans and evidently had a common ancestor, meaning that both originated from the same place, much like how all humans in our world are said to come from Africa. They were clearly not born on the moon, but rather were born on the planet below and went up there at some point. And I mean, it makes sense. If once upon a time they had wings as large as kings, they could have just flown there. We've seen the moon, unlike ours, is not really that impossible to reach and is somewhere closer to the point where it likely is covered by the atmosphere, allowing living beings to breathe there. We saw how easily Enel got there with his ship, or how the automata flew there with literally just balloons. So it's not absurd to think the Skyfolk just flew there. Flew so far to a point that no human could ever reach them, to a paradise where they could live in peace without the meddling of humans. Or in other words, an utopia. The capital of Burka they founded on the moon was truly an utopia. Undisturbed, they were able to progress and advance as a society, developing their technology to an impressive level. After all, war, hatred, and the opposition of progress are what stagnates societies. And it is those that are able to be open-minded and peaceful that manage to make the biggest technological leaps. Thanks to that, Skyfolk invented machinery, advanced mechanism, and even sentient species of robots known as the automata. Regardless, the Skyfolk, referred to as the Moonfolk during this period, were able to lead forward this prosperous society, this utopia known as the Moon City of Burka. It truly was a beautiful society, one where there was no discrimination or prejudice. But for as wonderful as it was, there was one critical flaw that put an end to this civilization: resources. For as peaceful as the moon was, its resources were limited. No wildlife, no trees or water, only a wasteland of earth. Life in the moon was simply not realistic anymore, and so, as depicted on the moon murals we saw in the cover story, the moonfolk abandoned their home and returned to the planet below, where war and persecution were certainly still threats, but where they at least could survive in some form or another. On the moon, the moonfolk already seemed to have split into 3 different factions, 3 specific sub-races with mild biological differences. The original names are unknown, but today these are known as the Shandorians, more tribalistic in nature and with mid-sized wings, the Skypeans with slightly smaller wings and a cultural tendency to style their hair in the shape of antennae, and finally the Burkans, who possess larger and more angled wings. These 3 factions were a bit distinct from each other.
Okay, so he kind of explains about the Skypeans. I'm curious, where do the Lunarians fit into, like, because we got the I want to say this video dropped about 2 weeks ago, right? Because this is episode 4 about to drop tomorrow, or this week. I think tomorrow. I'm pretty sure it's tomorrow. So I'm assuming episode 3 dropped last week, and then episode 2 dropped the week before last week. So I think we got the reveal of the Lunarians the same, like the same week that he dropped this video. So I'm assuming when he was making this video, I'm pretty sure he probably made this video before the chapter actually officially dropped, or around the same time he might have made this video. Or he might have even made this. I don't know when he made this video. So I'm assuming he was making this video. He made this video before that chapter dropped. That's what I'm assuming. I could be way off. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how he puts together. But seeing how it's so in depth and, he had to do a lot of research and all these things. If he dropped it the week before last and the same week that chapter dropped, I'm sure that he made the video, way like he made the video, or he made the video before that chapter, so before the big reveal of the Lunarians. But I would, if I could ask him anything, I would ask him, where do the Lunarians fit into this? Now we're aware of this existence of this new species, the Lunarians. Where do they fit into this equation? And now this part is speculation. The Lunarians are a confirmed species that King was a part of, and he's the last of his species as far as we know. But one thing that when I was talking to Elids, he said that with the species of the Lunarians being like moon, like lunar being moon, so I would say like moon people, or people of the moon. Maybe they didn't actually live on the moon, but maybe they were just, I don't know, related to the moon somehow. We don't got that information right now, so I can't really speak on the Lunarians. The only thing we know of them is the name of Lunarians, so I was talking, the one stream I did with Elids last week, he was talking about the possibility of the existence of the Solarians, right? So, and these are like, you got lunar being moon and solar being sun. So, those might be two other races of, related to the Skypeans, but Solarians is just speculations, but Lunarians is definitely something we're familiar with at this moment that we got confirmation of. So where would the Lunarians and possibly Solarians fit into this equation? Because they have to have a connection with the moon. And the fact that this video is about the moon, and the Lunarians are not only sky people, they are also possibly sky people. I don't know for a fact. They got wings like they're sky people. And their name is related to the moon. So I would like to see how his theory is related to, like, how this theory is related to the Lunarians. Maybe if he would have dropped this video, after that chapter, maybe this video would be slightly different, maybe completely different. I don't know, but I'm curious. I might have to shoot him a tweet and see if he responds. I don't know if he would, but yeah, let's go.
But in spite of their differences, they managed to live together in harmony. However, when they descended to the planet below, they eventually parted ways. As we currently know, the Moonfolk, now the Skyfolk, divided themselves to live in 3 different islands. The island of Jaya, where the city of Shandora was located, and the Sky Islands Skypiea and Burka. It is unclear why one of the 3 factions lived in the Blue Sea and the others lived in the sky, but it's possible that they all descended to the Blue Sea at first, as indicated by the moon murals, but 2 of these races eventually discovered that clouds were inhabitable, finding a new place to stay away from humans. These Sky Islands were still a far cry from the moon, as humans could still reach them via several traveling methods, but at least it gave them a bit more peace than the land below could. However, for as heavenly as the sky was and for all the resources it did provide, ironically, it lacked the one resource they had always possessed.
Earth.
The one resource they had so much of to the point it was superfluous, despite lacking all other resources. Earth, or Verth, as they called it in their culture. Because the moon was just that, a wasteland of Earth. And yet in the sky, Earth was the one thing that just was not available. Without Earth, they couldn't plant or grow crops, which made it a very valuable resource. The sky folk yearned for the Verth, and most importantly, they yearned for their homeland. The moon folk would never return to the moon. What was once an utopia free of hatred and discrimination was simply not realistically sustainable anymore. And yet this yearning for the moon never disappeared. This yearning became symbolized in the Verth itself, the one thing they had in abundance in their utopia, but lacked in their new countries. The moon thus became part of Skyfolk legend and religion. This legendary land, this utopia, came to be known as Fairy Verth, a legendary land that all Skyfolk yearn for, a true paradise. That is why they named each of their new homelands with names based on the original homeland. Burka, the name of the ancient moon city, Chandra, which is based on Chandra, the Hindi deity of the moon, and Skypiea, a combination of the sounds for sky and utopia. Across the entirety of the arc of Skypiea, we are told of this fairy Verth, this land of eternal earth, this paradise that all the Skyfolk seek. Yet the story never specifies what it is. Enel refers to it as this dreamlike utopia. He yearns to go there because he feels like it's a fitting place for a god. And at the very end, it's revealed that all this time, Fairy Verth was the moon. But what Enel failed to realize is that it was an utopia not because it was some paradise worthy of a god, but because it was a place free of persecution, free from human hatred. It was the utopia that all the Skyfolk once lived at, something that over time became nothing more than the stuff of legends. In chapter 244, we stumble upon an earth idol located at the center of Angel Island, a religious figure for the Skyfolk. When describing the idol, Connis explains,
それはバース。空に住む人々の永遠の憧れそのものです。
おめえらこんなに憧れんのか？
ええ、正解の人たちには理解しがたいものですね、きっと。
because this eternal yearning was to return to their homeland, the moon, to Fairy Verth itself. Something that the Skyfolk eternally yearn for, something that normal humans could never comprehend. The desire to return to their long-lost utopia. One where they could be safe away from humans, where they could simply be at peace. That was all that they wanted. I feel that many people often overestimate the importance of the moon in the series, like it's the key to everything and something massively important. And while it is true that the moon does hold quite a bit of symbolism and has impacted other cultures beyond that of the Skyfolk, something that holds true in our own world as well, I don't think this importance is to the degree that some chalk it up to be. I've seen some people speculate that the moon is perhaps where the Great Kingdom is located, or the celestial dragons are aliens who came from the moon, or that it's the One Piece itself, but honestly, no. I just don't think it's as important.
Nah, I agree with him on that. Like, I don't, I do believe that there, like, the moon has very significant relevance to the story. I don't think the One Piece is on the moon. I mean, if it is though, I do think that would explain why it's so hard to actually, that's why it would be so hard to actually reach the One Piece. You know what I'm saying? That's that obstacle. Because I think the one thing that makes it hard for the One Piece, because if the One Piece was on just some random island, I think somebody would have came across it somehow. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody would have been able to bump into it. Like, oh, what's this island? Oh, this treasure right here. You know what I'm saying? Somebody would have been able to access it. You know, even if it was accidentally. You know, like not even just one person. Like plenty of people would have. Like Laugh-Tale would have been able to. So if it was on the moon, which I'm not, that's not my theory. You know, I kind of like the idea that it might be in the waterfalls in this lobby a little more than it being on the moon, because you know that would explain why it's so hard to get to, because it's under this huge waterfall. I don't think, you know, I don't think it's on the moon. I think, you know, what I kind of did just kind of idea that just kind of popped into my mind is, what if there's a poneglyph on the moon? Like, what if there's a road poneglyph on the moon? And that's, again, so if there's a road poneglyph, we might be getting we could potentially get a art where we go to the moon somehow. I don't know how they get there. Well, with Frankie, it's possible. They already went to the sky, so, I don't think the moon would be that impossible. But yeah, I think the moon has it has more symbolic relevance, because, we talk about in Wano alone, right? In Wano alone, you got the Kazuki, the Kosuke clan, and all these other clans in Wano, and I think somebody explained that how their names kind of related to the moon. I don't remember where I heard that from, but their names are related to the moon. And we hear the moon before the dawn. We hear, the Kosuke had a little moon on their little moon crest on their feet. Then we talk about Anel, how he wanted to go to the moon, and the cover story with him being on the moon. And then we got the Lunarians that we just discovered. And of course, like I keep saying, I'm sounding like a broken record at this point. The Lunarians, which lunar is related to the moon, so. And then we also got, but what's also relevant is the sun, because we got the sun god, which I'm thinking of now. I think the last episode of One Piece I was watching, and when Luffy went Gear 4, I don't know if I remember this in being said in the manga, but at least in the anime, Luffy went Gear 4, and Hyogoro was pointing out the fact that Luffy reminded him of the sun god. He didn't say the sun god. What's the sun god name? Nera or something like that. He didn't say the name. He just reminds him of that form reminds him of the sun god. But yeah, let's continue.
More than some people think it is. Its presence in the story has been relegated to just a cover story, one most anime fans don't even have an idea exists, and even that is just a continuation of the story of Skypiea. The story of the moon is the story of the Skyfolk, a part of the story of Skypiea, as simple as that. But it's understanding the story that is really important to understanding the greater whole, and you'll understand very soon why. However, back to our story, the characteristic of yearning for birth is something that only afflicted the Skyfolk that lived in the sky, because the Shandorians eventually moved on. For them, Earth was plenty, and this time they had both the Earth and the resources to sustain themselves, and since they assumed a tribalistic and warrior-like culture, that allowed them to fend themselves against humans quite well, so they simply moved on. They moved on with their lives and moved on from the legend of the moon. They would come to worship their own gods and craft their own culture, completely detached from that of the sky. And eventually, one day, they would also come to forge friendship with humans. However, in an ironic twist of fate, the destinies of both the people of the sky and the skyfolk of the sea would one day once again intertwine with each other. On one fated day 400 years in the past, a knock-up stream erupted beneath the island of Jaya, shooting it into the sky. The island would land near Skypiea, making the people of that land feel like that chunk of Jaya, the enormous amount of earth, was a gift bestowed to them, one that they were in the right to possess. This led to war. Both factions wanted this large chunk of earth for themselves, giving start to a war that would last for entire 4 centuries. Things took a turn for the worse when eventually the Vulcans invaded as well, led by a youth by the name of Enel. Enel proclaimed himself the god of the skies, and driven by desire of power, he annihilated and destroyed his country of Burka, leaving as survivors only those who had left the island at some point in the past, and those Enel took with him to invade Skypiea. This conflict between 2 countries became a conflict between 3, making the situation even more dire. But the true irony of it all is the fact that while all these factions came from different places, different islands in the sky and the blue sea, they were all skyfolk, yet they still saw each other as different. These people who had once lived side by side in this peaceful utopia were at their throats over something they could have easily shared. All the more ironic because the Shandians had once managed to set apart their differences with another race, but in an attempt to preserve that bond, they ended up creating such a long and bloodstained struggle. All they needed to understand was that if they could share this earth with each other, then this entire conflict would be solved. The solution to this war was simply to unite everyone together, and yet they could never achieve that. In that regard, the history of the moon and Skypiea is the perfect micro-example of how things were for the rest of the world. Their history is a replica of the history of the world, and understanding how things developed on Skypiea will help us comprehend how things would develop everywhere else. Because much like the rest of the world, Skypiea was in a situation where those of different races would fight against each other just because of their differences, leading to this endless cycle of hatred and fear that would continue across the generations, being taught to future children. This led to a 400-year-long war, one that seemed like it would never, ever end. Until one day, a certain boy appeared. One day, a young boy would finally land on Skypiea, not in search of war or conquest, but simply in search of adventure. And much like he would one day change the history of the world, this boy changed the history of Skypiea by bringing everybody there together. He rose to defeat the one who was playing at being God, and helped put a stop to this long war by connecting all those different races as one, by spreading joy among the people of the sky. But how could he achieve that? What could this man possibly do? What could he possibly bring that would be so revolutionary to bring joy to the people of the sky and stop this hate?
He rang the bell. That's what he did. And it kind of, I think it helped like with the Shandorians. He rang I think when he rung the bell, I think that's kind of like, that kind of, I'm gonna let him speak, but it was him ringing the bell. But him ringing the bell and him beating the nail, I would say.
Hatred that persisted for centuries in a single instant.
そう、自分の目で確かめるがよい。人々は今、誰一人戦いなど望んではいない。
Oh, the parties.
This joyous boy helped connect all those who had been divided for so many centuries through the simple act of throwing a massive party.
Okay, I was way off.
A party where everyone could throw away hatred and discrimination and instead indulge in joy and laughter. And it is this massive party that would not only connect all people together as equals, but it is also this massive party that would allow everyone to finally laugh together. And one day, eventually, this boy would throw a party so big that it would connect the entire world together, connecting those who were scattered and divided, and uniting them as one, just like he did for the people of the sky. But of course, that is a story we haven't reached yet. And for this boy to accomplish such a grand feat, he would need a massive treasure, one that could quite literally bring the world together in one piece. But that is a story no one yet knows about.
Okay, so all right. So again, make sure you go to the original video. It's going to be linked in the description. Go give him a good thumbs up too. If you make sure you give my stream a thumbs up as well. But go give him a thumbs up, and I feel as though I feel as though that the theory I did on Sunday, right, from the Reddit post, I think it can still be very connected. Now and again, this is his theory, and again, it's he's still got like 6 more episodes that I gotta watch before I get to the finale of it, and when he brings everything together, and that's when I could see if both those theories align. But I'm kind of having hope for it, like you know, if you haven't watched the video I did on Sunday, again, watch it. And the idea, just to kind of summarize the video I did on Sunday, just to connect it with this one, the idea is that the One Piece is what, like, the One Piece was a project, right? It was like a project One Piece, right? To basically unite the world by destroying the, you know, Marijoa, and destroying the Red Line, and destroying the Grand Line, or not the Grand Line, the Reverse Mountain, like that mountain, you know. So basically destroying the Red Line to where Fishman Island is, and where Reverse Mountain is. Destroy those two, pretty much unite the world. You also create the All Blue in doing that, and that's pretty much the One Piece. With the One Pieces, I'm assuming the One Piece is like the actual instructions, the plan of it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I said it could be a poneglyph, like a big gold poneglyph, or just a poneglyph in general, that is telling you about this plan of how to unite the world in one piece. So kind of like what he just said, to unite the world in one piece. And in the sense, after uniting the world, you have this big party, you know, like Luffy does. You know, he's a big party guy, to actually unite the races. So first you got to unite the world by, you know, destroying the separation of these seas, right? And being able to allow the fishmen to live on the surface, and maybe if the Skypean races want to live on the surface as well, if they want to come down from the sky and live on the verth, what they call it, but you know, we call it the earth. And you know, also the minks, they could possibly create a country, you know, that's not just on the back of a huge elephant. So but first you gotta unite the world, as far as you gotta unite the seas so people could be free to travel as they please. And then, you know, Luffy unites the people by doing what Luffy does best, and that's creating that joy among people, you know, bringing people together. That's like one thing that is a common theme, you know, like you hear a lot, you know, you hear that Luffy's biggest power, right, is his ability to bring people together, to win people over to his side and bring them together. And that's been the video that we just watched shares that, you know, it supports that idea. You know, he said the same thing, bringing, you know, it brought the Birkins, these three different Skypean races together. You look at the fishmen, right? You know, now the fishmen are still discriminated when it comes to human. He didn't bring that together yet, but you know, one thing with the fishmen is they hated, not all of them, but there was a big hatred towards humans among a lot of fishmen, like Arlong, Hody Jones and his crew, Arlong's crew, of course. And after defeating them, you know, when we see Luffy and he was about to die, what happened? You know, when he lost all that blood, what happened? We had Jinbei, a fishman, break the fishman laws of not being able to transfuse their blood to humans, to humans, you know what I'm saying? So, but he broke that anyway, you know. So in a sense, that moment right there was so deep, because it was almost like it was a small, it was a foreshadowing of him eventually, you know, uniting fishmen and humans, because you had a fishman giving blood to a human, breaking the law in order to do it. And when he did that, you know, it brought them together, you know. And then eventually we see Jinbei become part of the Straw Hats, you know. So he's like part of the crew. He's like part of the family, the Straw Hat family, because that's what they are in a sense. They're like a family, you know. These pirate crews are like families in a sense, you know. Some of them kind of run their crews a little, like they'll be willing to kill a crewmate or whatever. But, you know, but you also see the Straw Hats in general, right? It's a crew full of different characters. You know, Luffy brought them together. You know, we got a cyborg, right? We got a reindeer that can with a human fruit. You know, then we got a skeleton, right? We got a woman who was looked at as a demon, you know, because she knew too much. You know, we got, you know, then we got a swordsman. You could kind of say, you know, Sanji, Zoro, and, you know, most of the humans are kind of, you know, normal in a sense. But, you know, not everybody in the Straw Hats are normal humans, you know. Then you got Jinbei, you know, and if we do somehow get a new crewmate, which I'm thinking could potentially be Yamato and or Carrot, we'll have a mink. Like, we might have a mink and we might have an ogre princess. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it just, you know, the Straw Hat crew alone just kind of shows how diverse, you know, it's kind of a symbolic bringing a symbolic unite unit of different characters, right? And that's pretty much that. But yeah, so that's pretty much what I got. I'm enjoying the series that he's doing. You know, I kind of want to see where it ties into, you know, if it ties into the theory that, you know, I did on Sunday, which was a very good theory. If you haven't watched it, go watch that. And what else was I thinking of? If I could ask him one thing, I want to ask him, where do the Lunarians fall into this, you know, this theory that he has? Because I'm assuming he was recording this video before that we got that bombshell, before that reveal, right? So I wonder, knowing what we know now, if he would, I don't want to say change, but if he would go and update this theory, you know. Now, I'm not saying he's going to shoot a new video, but maybe he might have some new thoughts on it, you know. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be the video, or the stream right there. Make sure you show some love, give your boy a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you go and subscribe. I will be doing a giveaway at 50 subscribers. Go to the original video, give that a like as well. You know, give him a like as well, and go subscribe to his channel. He makes great content. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at BlumpGod. If you don't know how to spell that, it's the name of the channel, baby. And again, if you're looking for a community of other One Piece fans, I have a Discord, One Piece Discord, and I also have a Facebook group. And the links will be in the description. So, it's your boy, Sean P. the Bluff God. Hey! And I'm out of here. Peace.